Hello there. A warm welcome to another edition of Tech Trends, the program that takes you on a ride in 25 minutes to seek out innovation and creativity that are unique to Africa. On the program this week, we feature the Mobile Prof, a startup that's proving a smartphone is more than just a tool to stay connected. And then later on the program, I'll be talking to Larry Basamta, CEO of Optimus AI Labs, on bridging the digital divide in Africa using Edtech. We'll give you more in just a moment. Do stay with us. This is Tech Trends, and I'm Olayemi Otunuga.
Coding. It's an endless process of trial and error, of trying to get the right command in the right place, with sometimes just a semicolon making the difference between success and failure. Code breaks and then it falls apart, and it often takes many tries until that magical moment when what you're trying to build comes to life.
Imagine if your smartphone was more than just a way to stay in touch, but could actually be a tool for your career. Well, that's exactly what the Mobile Prof is helping people achieve. They are showing individuals how to turn their phones into remote work devices that can code, manage projects, and even handle high-quality jobs. Here's more.
Back in 2020, when Tech Trends first paid a visit to the Mobile Prof, founded by Samuel and Yaeli, the startup was all about teaching young people to code using just their smartphones. No PCs required.
So let's say we want to look at our downloads.
Many thought that was a brilliant approach, especially since smartphones were everywhere.
The same thing. The one is heavy.
Samuel's idea to give students the tools they need to learn how to code right in the palms of their hands was one that aimed to make learning more accessible, particularly in areas where traditional computers might not be available.
Remember the last time you came, there was a laptop in that shoot. So we needed for it to be a more mobile experience and more intrinsic experience. So we ensured that we created a system that enabled that to happen, and an energy efficient system that allows us to put together devices that work irrespective of what is happening with PHCN or what's happening with the cost of fuel.
Fast forward 4 years and the Mobile Prof had to make a big pivot. A combination of challenges led Samuel and his team to rethink their approach. So what's new with the startup?
When you last came, we didn't have our mobile e-library. Now we have our mobile e-library, which fortunately, a lot of people are even keen about they want to mimic the same thing that we did for them, and it's opening up an unexpected new market for us. So we're now more focused on, instead of just beginner trainers, we're also teaching advanced people how to use tech people how to use mobile phones to augment their work and to carry their work around. There were some specific economic challenges. There is the more not in our control ones, and there were other ones within our control. True, the demand for mobile learning is huge, especially here, because most young people have mobile phones, but they don't have a PC. The challenge with that market is it's a market that doesn't have a lot of funds, because it's the funds that was even limiting them from getting the laptops in the first place. So you have a situation where you are making impacts, but you're not generating enough revenue to sustain that business model.
The startup decided to switch gears from smartphones to tablets. This new setup provided a better learning environment with a bigger screen and keyboard, while still letting students use their smartphones for practice. Samuel says this pivot wasn't without its hurdles. The team had to revamp their curriculum to align with the new tools as well as adjust their teaching methods.
Basically, we build all of the different systems that connect together to make that mobile library work. So we have the tablets, which are the client system. So instead of having a computer that consumes all that energy and the UPS connected to it, that without electricity, without your generator, you can't power, you have that tablet that consumes very little energy. And we also have a server that we can load content on. When we load content on the server, there's none of the client devices that are on the internet. So all of the client devices are collecting content from the server. So if it's in a school environment, for example, we can put together an e-library and an examination practice portal. So as your students are watching Khan Academy videos, physics, biology, and all of that, they're also practicing JAM, WAEC, and other examinations. So they're studying and practicing at the same time. And you're not paying for internet connection because none of the devices are connected to the internet. You have a server that holds a lot of content. And you're also not paying for a lot of power because most of it is powered by solar. So it enables you to create a holistic system, especially within schools, that allow you to still deliver content to your students, but at very little maintenance or maintenance cost. What we're teaching the beginners was introduction to computers, introduction to Linux, and all of that. But when you are teaching advanced people, a lot of the basic things are already learned. So you need to figure out how to bring in value that is worth them still using a mobile phone. So you would change curriculums to fit in with that advanced targets and create a system that's a more conducive system for them to use in the office.
But with every challenge comes new opportunities. The switch to tablets and the creation of a mobile e-library opened up fresh avenues for learning and engagement.
Now we have a model, an e-library model that we are using as a basis for replicating the same energy-efficient, tablet-only system across multiple spaces. So, for example, a lot of schools are excited about reducing their energy consumption. So for them, it's important to have devices that do not consume a lot of electricity, that can be connected to battery, that can be connected to solar. So that creates a unique opportunity for investments to come in, not on our training model, but on creating those mobile e-libraries for different setups. That's a great opportunity for investment.
Despite the economic strains and the need to adapt, Samuel's startup, the Mobile Prof, has continued to thrive. The pivot to tablets has not only solved some of the earlier challenges but also introduced new possibilities for coding education, keeping the original perks of learning on the go.
You would end up using a very heavy image for your website. And the thing about heavy images is that they slow down the website.
Did you know the first computer virus was created in 1983 and was called the Elk Cloner? Richard Skrenta, a 15-year-old on winter break from high school, wrote what is considered to be the first large-scale, self-spreading personal computer virus. Elk Cloner was the first virus to affect a system during boot up. The virus targeted and affected Apple II's boot sector. Apart from displaying annoying messages, the virus did not have any drastic negative effects. However, it did spread rapidly and at one point infected a US Navy member's computer. Elk Cloner was 400 lines long and described by its author as some dumb little practical joke. the virus attached itself to the Apple DOS 3.3 operating system and spread by floppy disk. The term virus was coined in 1984 to describe a self-replicating program that inconvenienced users. Elk cloner, which predates the term by 2 years, possibly played a role in this nomenclature. Elk cloner also predates by 4 years the world's first Microsoft OS virus, Brain, which came out in 1986. How much do you really know about the tech world? Put your knowledge to the test with these trivia questions. The word cyborg is a portmanteau of which two-word term describing a bionic human, according to Merriam-Webster? A. Cybernetic organism. B. Computerized robot. C. Mechanical human. D. Digital entity. Cybernetic organism. A is your answer. What Google software debuting in 2016 offers vocal help to Google mobile and smart home device owners? This virtual helper's name implies that its job is to help you reach your goals. A. Google Now. B. Google Assistant. C. Google Help. D. Google Guide. Google Assistant, B, is your answer. Since 2013, what technology company focused on payments has owned the popular smartphone cash transfer app Venmo? A. Square. B. Stripe. C. PayPal. D. Apple Pay. PayPal, C, is your answer. Now appearing prophetic, what device was announced in 2007 with the following slogan: "This is only the beginning"? A. iPad. B. iMac. C. iPhone. D. iWatch. iPhone, C, is your answer. What giant Chinese technology and e-commerce company was named by founder Jack Ma after a character from the Arabian Nights fairy tales? A. Tencent. B. Baidu. C. Alibaba. D. Huawei. Alibaba, C, is your answer.
For some in Africa, the vision of a classroom where students can access the world's knowledge with just a click remains a distant dream. This is because the digital divide, that's the gap between those who have easy access to digital technology and those who don't, is still a significant challenge, particularly in the education sector. Even though technology can help, closing this gap requires innovative solutions and a deep understanding of the unique challenges faced in various regions. Larry Basamta, CEO of Optimus AI Labs, joins me to discuss how Edtech can help bridge the digital divide in Africa. Now, Larry, Larry, we talk about Africa not missing out on the fourth industrial revolution. We talk about developing AI solutions for Africans. We also talk about capitalizing on the potentials of a digital economy. But can we really achieve all that if we're still unable to bridge the digital divide in Africa?
Well, I mean, the way to look at it is that we cannot run away from the challenge. The truth is the digital divide as we know it is quite notable. And the reasons for that varies. Many of it is infrastructure, but it's not just with infrastructure. Some bit of the reasons for this is literacy. Some bit of the reasons are special needs, okay, disabilities, people who cannot read, people who cannot write. And so we need to understand that the reason for digital divide is not just a single issue. And we have to find creative ways to try to address that. And I mean, I think maybe the best way for us as a continent, and particularly for us as a people in Nigeria, to address this is frankly through technology. Some of it we really cannot jump over, but I believe that technology is helping. And one of the ways that technology is helping is first trying to identify what are the critical barriers and trying to solve it one after the other.
So, Larry, as someone who works, in the ed tech space, that's education technology. In your experience, how does this digital divide impact students and educators?
It's significant, I must admit. For example, no matter the value of the solutions that we build, you can almost imagine that anything between 50 to 70% of the people who need it will never be able to access it. And that is significant. It means that if we're really dreaming of continent-wide transformation, there's still a long way to go. Imagine, for example, we've built a very powerful solution, AI-powered solution that can transform learning for every child in Africa. The last time I checked, there are more than 650 million Africans below the age of 18 who are due for basic and high school education. Particularly between the age of 10 and 17, there are almost 300 million Africans that need the kind of solutions that we provide. But because of the nature of the digital divide and its attendant consequences, millions and millions, possibly more than 200 million of that 300 figure cannot access it, first because of cost, second because of infrastructure, third because of literacy, fourth because of special needs. So the implications are gargantuan. I mean, not just the money we could be making, but clearly the impact we can be making on the continent is severely limited. So I would say from an edtech provider, we are severely handicapped. And same for teachers who have to teach these students. I mean, there's no effective teaching without tools. But imagine if you have all the tools in the world, there are significant digital divide. How do you make a difference? And same for these kids who themselves need access to quality education. So it's a loss for everybody, I must admit.
So, Larry, if we do agree that access to technology is one part of the equation, it might seem that Africa, needs a smarter approach to addressing digital skills shortages. Now, a couple of founders in the education sector, like yourself, would argue that EdTech offers promising solutions, that it has the potential to bridge the digital divide in Africa, be through LMS, that's Learning Management System, or SMS, School Management System. Now, the question is, can these solutions help individuals, students, educators, communities, especially those in the low-income areas? Can it help them with the knowledge and skills they need to fully participate in the digital world?
I mean, that's a resounding yes. And I mean, to speak more specifically, for example, on our part, we have, a learning management solution called Ziki. If you recall the four major reasons why we have significant digital divide, particularly in the educational space that I talked about, we've tried to not just deny this, but to admit it and ask ourselves, how do we solve it? I mean, it's easy for us in the southern part of Nigeria. I mean, I'm presently based in Lagos, where we can readily just go to town and tell the schools and the students and their parents that there is a solution here that makes a difference. But in significant parts of northern Nigeria, there are no access to power. There are significant disconnection to internet connectivity. And so we have a responsibility to provide solutions that can work where there is no power. Now, imagine the innovation, imagine the responsibility, imagine the commitment required to provide a technology solution that will be used without traditional power sources, okay? It's the same with internet. I mean, here in in the southern part of Nigeria, it's very easy for us to trump that our solution works on the internet, but there are vast swaths of our territory that doesn't have internet connection. And so we have to think uniquely about how to provide a solution that works offline, even though it's an AI-powered solution. And so we are doing that. And I'm sure very many others are doing that. I mean, some part of our solution has to be available for people who cannot read, for example. Some part of our solution should be available for people who only can hear, but they cannot see. And so there are creative ways that we're looking at some of those problems. Maybe the last thing to talk about is with respect to literacy.
Now, coming back to the barriers you mentioned earlier, digital literacy, special needs, there's the internet access, adequate infrastructure, and even access to devices, really. But how
Yeah.
can we, break down these barriers? Because education is really quite crucial.
I would say maybe the most impactful way to do it is through collaboration. All of this week, I was at repeated events where I was fortunate to talk to critical stakeholders in the edtech space. My experience is more around, I mean, the last 16 years, I've been in fintech primarily, and I see when I talk about one of the few successes of this country is the achievements and the collaboration that we saw in the fintech space, where critical stakeholders like fintechs and banks and the regulator and everyone came together to build one of Africa's biggest behemoths in our payment ecosystem. I think that for us to be able to address the significant challenges we have, not just as a country, but particularly in the educational space, we need to explore collaboration. Of course, we'll need the leadership of the government and the regulator to be able to chart the way. But more importantly, everywhere that I go, I'm always looking out for partners. And the reason why I say that is this. We have some of the most compelling solutions in the edtech space. Every time I go to conferences and hear from partners and other builders, I see what fantastic job they're doing, but not many people know. Everybody's working from their silos.
Larry, let's assume that, there's collaboration, all of these barriers have been broken down, all the necessary resources have been provided. How do we address the need for training and support to ensure that both students and teachers can effectively use these tools?
I think that training is not just something desirable at this point, it's quite well necessary. And I think that particularly for many of us in the tech space who provide solutions to educational institutions like schools, we need to frankly think of teachers as co-primary audiences of our solutions. I mean, we just started thinking of that recently when we're rolling out the version 2 of our platform. And then it dawned on us that we needed teachers on site. Now, if teachers are not familiar with AI, if they're not familiar with how AI can actually power their own profession, then it becomes more difficult for them to be able to understand what their kids or what their students are doing and how to help them. So certainly we need to provide platforms that would humanize and automate trainings so that we can scale training all around. I mean, some of the teachers that I've met with over the last 2 weeks, I would say that they're some of the cream of the crops. Imagine teachers in Zamfara, for example, many of whom do not even have power access or internet access. How do you teach them enough for them to be able to teach across the digital divide that they may be? And particularly for the students, I think the students are the easier audience to speak to. Young people are almost always curious. They want to try out new things. I think that if we provide them the tools and the tech, they will be interested enough to engage with it. And I see that, I mean, I have a 10-year-old son and a 4.5-year-old daughter. And they spend sizable amounts of their time on their tablets. They play with AI. They work with AI today. And I know that is the story of many young people. So I don't think theirs will be too hard. But for the teachers, I think is a significant investment we all need to make, government practitioners and they themselves.
Well, Larry, talking about incorporating, artificial intelligence, can we really get the results we need, the results that, AI can give us if we are still battling with these barriers, these challenges, internet access, adequate infrastructure, access to device, digital literacy? Can we really achieve the results AI can give us if we're still battling with those challenges?
I think there are two ways to look at it. And when I talk about AI, I mean, Sam Altman, when was leading and building out open AI, he was asked, I mean, how are you going to monetize AI? And he said that if we build the right AI, then we can ask AI to teach us how we're going to monetize it. And they've done successfully at that job. I think the first thing is to say that there's a small catchment of Nigerians who have some measure of access. I mean, what I'm undertaking this interview over the internet. So there is a percentage of Nigerian students, Nigerian schools, Nigerian teachers who are already included in the digital ecosystem. I think that we need to provide them enough tools that allow them to make the best of their life, help them to learn effectively, and help them to be able to transform and contribute to our national development. But particularly for those who are beyond the digital ecosystem, who are just at the other side of the line, I think that we can ask AI for significant help. So one of the things I answered earlier on is that, for example, on our side, we've used AI to be able to make our solutions work without internet. Now, that is significant, particularly for an internet-based solution. So what it means is that even though our AI tutor, AI personalized tutor, needs typically the internet to be able to process instructions given to it, we've been able to bring that capability and make it available offline. So that for students in Zamfara, in Plateau, in Yola State, wherever they may be, where they do not have access, they will be able to at least be included in one way or the other. So that's why I said we can get some assistance from technology. But beyond the assistance is the fact that many of the students, they are excluded because they cannot afford it. I mean, some of these solutions are quite expensive. And that's why I said in the first place, one of the ways to win really is collaboration.
Well, Larry, I guess we can both agree that in trying to close the digital gap, Africa needs to look at innovative approaches, because it is one thing for tech startups like yours to step up to the challenge, and it's another to use the tools developed as an economic catalyst. Thank you so much, Larry Basanta, for sharing your insights with us on Tech Trends.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Yemi. It was good to be here.
Well, it's a wrap on the show this week. Thank you for watching. Just as always, we will continue to show you how startups, big techs, and of course, inventful thinkers are crafting homegrown solutions using technology in the country. And if you missed any parts of the show, you can always catch up on the Channels TV YouTube accounts where we have all of our episodes. And as always, I encourage you to watch, share, and like your favorite editions. For Tech Trends, I'm Olayemi Otunuga. See you next time.